We are now live, which means I can press this button. Let's start our countdown. Let's skip it forward a bit as well, because, 3 minutes to go. There we go, that's a bit better. Right, so this is Talkin Comic-Con, a cup of tea with Englishman in San Diego. If you want to just start spreading the word and let everyone know that we are now live. And we'll see how many. I mean, we've got one viewer already. Hello, one viewer. This is where the one viewer is me watching.
Yeah, no, YouTube. And it's going to be 2.5 seconds while I started mine up also.
Yeah, we're so egotistical. We're watching our own feeds, and that's the people that are currently watching. That's great.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to get my notes. I have notes for this one. Oh, so I did not even realize that I'm going to have to go away for a moment and get my props. I will be right back.
So Alyssa's going to be doing her juggling routine this week. She's gone to get her juggling balls. I think she's juggling a chainsaw as well this week, so she's gone to fetch a chainsaw.
I can handle a chainsaw. Okay, I am capable. I can do this. Yes, I kind of thought that might be the response. But we heat with wood, not exclusively, but I've heated with wood all my life. So I'm
saying nothing at this point.
Yeah, chainsaws aren't fun, but
at which point Kevin has just sat there and just say, I'm not even getting involved in this conversation.
He's got his mute on. Isn't he muted?
He is muted, yes. Jump in, Kevin, come on.
Having technical problems today.
Uh-oh. I had those a few minutes ago.
We're having technical problems with my life, so it's okay.
I just changed my router.
Okay. So everybody, if you want to, like I say, spread the word, let everyone know that we're going to be talking Comic-Cons, we're going to be talking the end of the con season, how conventions are changing. We're going to be talking about television, we're going to be talking about cons that are coming up, because while the summer season may be coming to a close, there's still plenty of things to attract our attention.
And the Emmys!
Emmys are tonight.
Is that tonight? Oh, good Lord.
Yes, sir.
You know what? I'm not remotely interested because, quite frankly, if Tatiana Maslany is not going to win, then I'm not bothered. I'm not interested.
Oh, you stole my plug.
And I can't.
I'll tell you what. I'll leave that for you when we actually get into the show, and then we can include it in the audio version. That's all. That line is all yours.
I'm a big Orphan Black fan.
You and me both.
At Nerd HQ, we had I would say, a little bit of a chant going on for Emmy for Tatiana.
That's nice.
Fantastic.
I mean, with Hiddleston and Rami Malek and Bernard Cumberbatch. I mean, they're all up for Emmys tonight, so it should be an interesting night. I mean,
just out of curiosity, when it comes to the Hiddleston one, is that the night manager?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it. That show was pants.
I liked it.
That was John Le Carrier fan. I was going to say a word there. I'm not allowed to use that word on this. No, it was a show which some television producer thought this is what a thriller is supposed to look like, and we'll have the love scene here, and we'll have some intrigue here. And it's actually a performance by Tom Hiddleston that is now actually making me go back and look at every other Tom Hiddleston performance going, actually, is he not as good as I thought he was? So then, hey, you. Right. Okay.
About Winona Ryder then in Stranger Things.
Now that deserves all the Emmys. That deserves all the Emmys. Right. Yeah, it's going to be one of those because I'm not feeling 100% at the moment, so I'm going to be a little bit bolshy. Come at me. Come at me. Okay. Welcome to Talkin Comic-Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. I am high on several amounts of painkillers and cough medicines and cough syrups and all sorts of things. So this could turn into a wild one. It is the 18th of September, 2016, and this is season 4, episode 7, he says. We are coming to the end of a very long con season and a stretch of episodes where we've had some amazing live reports. We'd like to thank Samantha Beard. We'd like to thank Dan Berry. We'd like to thank basically everybody who jumped in on live reports from some amazing cons. We got to see some events that I've never been to. I hope you got to enjoy a glimpse into those worlds as well. So thank you so much. But now we're going to take a little bit of a breather, have a look back at 2016, look at what is coming up for the rest of the year, and also some television stuff as well. To help me with that, I've got two great guests. I've got myself, my regular partner in crime, Alyssa Franks from the Friends of CC Forum. Hello, Alyssa. How are you?
I am well. I'm well. It's been a week. You know, it seems like in real life is really caught up with everybody. That may or may not be a hint as to my my pick for Emmy Award shows tonight, which I have to get my hoodie on for.
Oh, there we go. The props coming out.
So that's so my week has been involved with television and getting ready for the next few months, getting ready for New York Comic-Con. We're seeing a bunch of panels being announced. They've got some new lineups, so we're all talking about all that stuff.
We'll definitely get into that a little bit later on. So thank you very much indeed for that. And also joining us, somebody who hasn't been on the show for a little while, so it's great to have him back. We've got Kevin Walwyn joining us. Hello, Kevin. How are you, sir?
How are you? I'm doing well. I'm recovering.
I know you've been keeping yourself busy with your con adventures this year. I mean, what was the last event you went to?
Star Trek Mission New York. I was with Alyssa doing the VR, the Star Trek Bridge Crew VR experience, which was fantastic. The Star Trek Online, it just got released for Xbox and PS4, so that's also keeping us, I would say, a little busy on the side, and also doing, let's say, the usual pre-fall purge of the DVR. So late nights, falling asleep on the couch, waking up to some God awful hour, and then rolling into bed for only a few minutes.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to come back to you on Star Wars missions, because it is going to be the first thing that I want to talk about in terms of topics of conversation today. But of course, this is a roundtable thing. This is about you guys watching. We've got some viewers. It says there we have viewers. Thank you so much indeed for joining us this week. If you do want to jump in on the conversation, or if you want to start a conversation, if there's anything you want us to talk about, jump in either on the YouTube chat room, which you will find on the YouTube page, or you can use the hashtag #CupOTSDCC on Twitter. I do kind of keep an eye on that as well. If there's anything you want us to talk about, if there's any events that you've been to, or if there's anything off the back of what we're about to get into. Because something that Alyssa brought up over the last couple of episodes, especially with her trip to Star Trek missions, is that we're kind of seeing an evolution of con culture. And it's kind of coming to a head in much the same way that it came to a head in that late 90s, late 99, 98, all the way into kind of like the last sort of like the 5, 6, 7 years, where con culture just exploded. But we're now getting to a point where it's almost like it's reaching that bubble point, but instead of bursting, it's just changing and evolving and turning into something else. And Alyssa brought this up when she went to Star Trek missions, in that it's feeling that the effort is going into conventions which are going to dedicated fandoms. So, for example, your D23s, your Supernatural Day, which took place a couple of weeks back, and Star Trek Missions itself. I put this open to both Alyssa and to Kevin. How's your convention experience this year? Is it feeling that evolution is actually happening? And is it a welcome change?
Alyssa, you go first. I have an opinion on
that. I think I like it because it's not detracting from the large conventions. It doesn't, aside from D23, which is a known Disney issue, which we can talk about in a moment, it's leading to the a lot. What I'm trying to say here is that you get a lot more intense fandoms grouping together for Star Trek missions, as opposed to having it just kind of melt away and not really be part of a convention like San Diego or New York Con. So I think it's a meeting of minds, and it's a lot more intense. You get to have a lot more intense relationships with fans that you just happen to meet, and conversations in lines with people because you are so all into Star Trek, for example, or like in Star Wars Celebration, you're all into Star Wars Celebration. So I think that is nice, and that's great. I think that there's also still a place for the larger conventions where you can meet. I can meet people who have Orphan Black fandoms and get to learn about what that show is, the serendipity of that. So I think it's whether or not you really want to focus on your particular fandom or you want to be exposed to the rest of geek culture.
Sure. I mean, it's certainly something that I kind of started thinking about in terms of this conversation when I went to Star Wars Celebration before I went to San Diego Comic-Con. And while I thoroughly enjoyed my time at the Excel Centre in London, it really did feel so intense that it was just nothing but. It almost felt like you needed to come up for air by the end of the day. Whereas with San Diego, because there are so many things to distract and to sort of like pull you in certain directions, you're almost kind of like changing tempo and changing the tone of your trip from room to room. Whereas with, like I say, when it is all just that one fandom in one room, it just seemed very intense. But it seems to be where the conventions are seeming to be going. Teresa Maxwell on the chat room saying, can you describe Star Trek missions? I have been out of the loop. Well, tell you what, we'll go to Kevin on that. If you can describe in your words what you felt Star Trek Missions was about, and also what your thoughts are on how conventions are evolving in 2016.
Star Trek Mission New York is Reed Pop's, I would say, venture into a specific demographic. So this time around, it was Star Trek only. But what was very interesting about this show is a little bit more not, I would say, the big, massive convention that we know, like New York Comic-Con, is focused on primarily Star Trek. But also, there's a nice little tangent here, because it also had NASA displays. NASA engineers actually came from JPL. They came from Huntsville, Alabama, to show off what they're doing, which actually kind of goes back towards the pioneer aspect of Star Trek. Star Trek was about going out in a space wagon to the stars. So Star Trek Mission New York had a little bit of the, you have the cast and the entertainment related to the Star Trek universe, but then also on the side you had a couple of games related to Star Trek that were being displayed and exhibited there, but also you had the NASA engineers that you had a chance to talk to and see what else is going on in the NASA engineering world, which I thought was actually pretty interesting, also from an aerospace background.
You also had a number of fashion sort of stalls as well, of like Star Trek related fashion and costumes and outfits. I thought those were, I mean, Alyssa, when she did her live report from Star Trek Missions, she kind of glanced on them, and there's some amazing designs there. And I kind of get what you mean, that it's, while you do have that fixed spotlight on the core fandom, you also have like all this periphery that really allows you to kind of see beyond just the series and its influence. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, it's like changing gears, and the costumes were fantastic. Walking through the exhibit hall. Now, this is not. I would say this is very well attended, but it wasn't claustrophobic when you're trying to walk through the exhibit hall and you're getting bounced around like crazy. It was actually very well paced, so you're able to go in, relax, go to this particular area without having to navigate through a whole volume of folks. But the costumes, definitely. You had a couple of cosplayers that were just a couple little mashups, like the Kim Kardashian, Kanye West. That was hysterical. I'm not a big fan. I don't want to shout out the that particular thing, but the cosplay was actually pretty good. You had a lot of cons dressed up, female con, male cons, and there was one con that was fantastic. He was an older gentleman, but he just nailed it. He was such a great con. So I liked it. I actually went to the costume contest, which I usually don't do at cons, and it was actually very interesting. It was very entertaining. And Repub might do this in other cities. So there might be a Star Trek mission in Chicago. There might be a Star Trek mission in Seattle. They're kind of testing the waters with these genre-specific cons, and they're kind of seeing where they want to go with it based on our conversation with some of the folks at Repub. So there might be something coming in your area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of seeing it. Well, we've seen it here in the UK for a little while because there have been events like City of Heroes conventions that are put on. These are, again, very intense fandoms. They're about very dedicated shows. So if you have an Arrow convention, you have a Supernatural, you have a Buffy, you have the Whedonverse stuff, and that's what's fascinating me. That it is becoming a little bit more fractured and really splitting down. Have you, apart from Star Trek missions, because it is a slightly different animal, because
Yes.
It's a Reed Pop event, it's something that they're taking these smaller fandoms or fandom events and kind of giving them more the scope of a New York Comic-Con and putting them into a platform of the larger convention. Have you been to any of the really small ones before, the one-room conventions?
No.
No.
Timing-wise, I couldn't do it, but we do have a couple of them on Long Island where I live, and they're kind of scattered. They're not really I would say publicized as much as you would expect. But there was one maybe 3 towns over. It was a small hotel. I didn't even find out about it until afterwards. There was one at the Cradle of Aviation, which is not too far away from me. That one had Elizabeth Henstridge and Karen Gillan from Doctor Who. And unfortunately, due to other scheduling events, I had to kind of look at my schedule. But now, literally, you start thinking about a con schedule. Every single weekend, there's a con going on somewhere. So going back to your earlier point, it's actually hitting to a point where con culture is really, really popular. And you can pretty much figure out, okay, do I want to go to a particular fan-based con, or do I want to go to something where I can change my gears, like a San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con, and shift gears if you want to sit down and go through a Mr. Robot panel or from Black panel. Emmy, anyway, I'll just start saying it's like
I was about to say I'm certain
Emmy
Daredevil panel or Daredevil convention.
Daredevil.
Is
Yes,
that something that would attract your attention, Alyssa?
Oh, well, absolutely, of course. But I mean, that's why I'm going to go to D23, because it's, it's the whole Marvel universe, but it's a focus convention that's happening next July. And so absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. Luke Cage is coming up this week, so that's another in that universe. So I'm all over it. Absolutely. So we've got that happening.
Well, I mean, I think
it's too excited. September 30th. September 30th. You have to wait a little bit. This week is Marvel's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. You're talking about Ghost Rider.
We're jumping into television early. You're peaking. Calm down. We're getting there. Okay. We've got a couple of people on the chat room saying Andrew English missed Chaoticon. I mean, I think this is something else. It says it's not really advertised. It was the same with ICE last week, which is a very it's very comics orientated. That while there are these small conventions, it seems that they really need to kind of take the Reed Pop model of being able to promote them so people actually know that they're there. I do quite like the a couple of comments from Michael P. It's good because everyone does not have the time or the money to go to the big cons, which is always a great point. And I also do quite like the idea that Michael P's put a Netflix convention. Now, you see, if Netflix, that's a great idea. If anything, because if Netflix can't be bothered to sort of like promote their own shows at convention purely because they spend all their money on the production and not necessarily their promotion. Yes, if we organize, or if someone out there organized their own Netflix convention, I'm certain they'd absolutely love that someone else would take that off their plate. Teresa Maxwell, Stockton Con is in its 6th year, I believe, and it's just exploded into a fairly big con. They have Michael Dawn this year. And I think this is what I'm kind of leading into. It's the whole idea that these smaller events are evolving themselves into bigger events, and it's that whole idea that with fandom, it's like oxygen in a room. You can make the room as big as you like, but it just seems to just kind of fill the room, and it's just how far that expansion goes before it just collapses on itself. I think that's what, seeing how it's evolving, that's what I want to discuss.
I'm inclined to think that it's not going to burst, because I think that there are so many geeks who've been in the closet, if I can use that metaphor, for so many years, that I think that now that we finally have a place that we can talk to each other and meet each other, I think it's going to continue. It runs the risk of becoming a little stale, and perhaps we won't get as much publicity and you know, by the local media and all of that sort of stuff. But I think that it's always going to be a meeting place that you can find other people who are into the same things you are.
Sure. That's why I'm really interested to see what San Diego Comic-Con 2017 is going to be like, and the way it's, because there are these smaller events which are taking away and becoming their own separate event, away from events like San Diego. And like you say, there is that feeling that it does need to evolve and continue to change and shift with the way that these the con culture is going. I'm very interested to see what CCI do to keep it fresh for 2017.
I also think that these smaller cons actually create a little bit of a stepping block for folks to bring their families or their friends, and then they'll say, okay, look, I'll go to a small con and let me test it out, let me see what's going on, and then maybe they decide to go for the bigger cons, the regional cons, and then I would say the massive big shows like San Diego, because San Diego you have to plan for, but at least you can figure out, okay, do I want to bring my daughter in for a day to check it out, see the costumes, walk around, and then you start going to the bigger things like the New York Comic Cons, the Star Wars celebrations. Yeah,
the events where you need an actual forum to kind of navigate said events.
Is that a plug somewhere? I don't know how I would have ever figured out how to get to San Diego without a forum of friends.
Yeah. Okay. Graham Small, I agree with Alyssa. My first convention was 3 years ago. Now I need to go to everyone that I can get to. It's an addictive thing to be surrounded by fans and fellow sort of like aficionados of something. So no,
it's
totally
also like needing to see your friends.
Yeah.
Who understand your geek side. That's what I'm finding personally on a personal level, because a lot of the people around here just don't understand that side of me, so they don't see it at all, and it's the only place that I can go where it really is free for that. So
Andrew English in the chat room, my nephew wanted to go to a dedicated con. I told him to start small with smaller conventions. It's probably a good idea. Let's have a look. He's turning around and saying he has at least 1 or 2 conventions left to attend this year. Michael P, I call San Diego Comic-Con tapping a vein. Okay, it's a nice way of putting it. Nice and classy. And Michael P, our people. Of course it is. That's who's in the room. That's what we like to have around. So that's cool.
So you've got
right. Speaking, go on, Alyssa.
You've got 2 more conventions this year, Leonard.
We've got a couple more. I'd like to know which ones that you're talking about, Andrew. I know that I've got 2 conventions left, certainly for 2016. In about a month's time, or slightly less than a month, I'll be heading to Kendal in the Lake District, which is a gorgeous part of the UK. It's just like a beautiful part of the world, very much out of the way. But they're going to be hosting the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, very much dedicated to the artists and small press. It's spread around various locations in Kendal. It's almost like San Diego Comic-Con meets Murder, She Wrote without the murder. Okay, that made no sense. You can tell I'm ill. It's just kind of like small village version of San Diego. It's just really cute.
It takes over the whole town then?
It does, and Kendal really gets behind it as well. All the local schools get behind it, local retailers, and they really do turn it into an event for the weekend. It's very, very cool. Considering that it's only been running for, I think this is year 4. We're hopefully going to be getting the organizer of that convention joining us and talking about it. Chris Haggish. So just old ladies writing down their daily lives. Well, no, but certainly you get your. You get some. They've drawn some amazing names because you do have people like Sean Phillips, who lives local, and they have managed to get a couple of local talent that do draw in some worldwide names. I mean, you've got Brian Lee O'Malley coming this year, the creator of Scott Pilgrim. He's coming to this event, and last year we had Kieran Gillen. Then you just bring these names to this small town in the middle of the Lake District. I love it. Graham Small, free mint cake? No, but I do keep asking. What else? The other con I'll be attending, which is in November, which is Thought Bubble, which is kind of like our largest convention here in the UK for comics and nothing but comics. So no Funko, no little bits and trinkets in the background. It's nothing but artists and small press, and that's our largest convention here in the UK beyond say London Super Comic-Con in the beginning of the new year. Teresa Maxwell, I heard about the Wizard World Cruise Con, which is very cool. Have you heard about? Kevin's nodding. What's about this one?
I don't have any details about it, but I think, Alyssa, you were thinking about that potentially. Is that the one with Norman Reedus?
It very well could be. I was thinking about it. I decided against it primarily because I'm not a big cruiser. I'm just not somebody that enjoys being on a cruise very much at all. So it seemed like it had a high potential with Wizard World of people canceling out, and I wasn't sure. I guess I'm not a big fan of Wizard World either, although I haven't gone to any of their conventions, so I don't know. This is not from experience. I'm
trying to get the sense that Wizard World is very much like the MCM events over here in the UK. They're kind of like, they're part of the landscape, and they put on these huge events, but it's almost like it's the convention organizers that you're not supposed to really. It's like the guilty secret, if you know what I mean. Graham Small's reminding me that yes, MCM London is taking place next month as well. Wizard World seemed very much like that from what I read.
Well, this one, they actually had, I think, Chris Helmsworth that was supposed to be attending as well. And I think that's a big name to put onto a cruise ship. So I haven't taken a look at it. Right now, I have another cruise that pretty much coincided with the timing of this, so I couldn't do 2 cruises in a matter of a couple of weeks. So I'll take a pass for now.
Fair enough. Sarita P is saying Wizard World isn't a con anymore. It's more like photo and autograph opportunities. In that case, it's very much like the MCM events here in the UK. Andrew English was talking about the ones that he was saying, that it's a Demon Con 12 at the beginning of October, MCM at the end of October, and London Film and Comic Con have a winter show in London. So that's what's happening in the UK.
but it's like the Wizard Worlds and the MCMs are focusing so much, like we were talking earlier. They're narrowing their focus so much to the pop culture, TV show, movie star fandoms that they're not, you know, and that's all they're doing. They're not doing the comics. They're not doing anything else. They're not subscribed to a particular genre.
Yeah, well, that's something. That's another discussion, and we are going to try and get some artists involved on that one. This is off the back of something that happened at Bournemouth Comic-Con, an MCM event, where they did in fact cancel. I think it was something like 80 to 90% of their comic book artists, and it ended up just the whole idea of it being a Comic Con just. Yep. Got wiped out completely. We are going to be hopefully doing a special episode in a couple of weeks' time where we are going to be talking about what it actually means to be a Comic Con now when there's no comics involved. I find it so frustrating.
An interesting tidbit that's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds is Boston Comic-Con that I've gone to for years and have loved because it's a really nice blend of comic artists, pop culture, TV stars, you know, and all of that sort of stuff. But they were just sold to Fan Expo. So next year, I will see firsthand what the difference is between a local regional convention that's moved into Fan Expo. Apparently, the gentleman who runs Boston Comic-Con went around to all of the booths at the end of the convention this year and told them that the convention was sold. They gave them the prices for the tables for next year, and the Artist Alley tables went up to $400.
Wow.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see. And I think, as you said, Leonard, earlier, that I think that we are going into that focused area where the comic part of conventions may be falling back. We may not be seeing as much comic vendors as we had, or comic artists as we had in the past, which is unfortunate.
Well, I mean, let's go to Kevin on that. I mean, the events that you've been to this year, I mean, what's your focus when it comes to events that you go to? Do you go for the pop culture or do you go for the comics? What's your take on it?
It's more about the pop culture and the media. So a few years ago when I was deciding whether to go to New York Comic Con, I take a look at the media guests I would attend, and then I'll decide maybe 2 weeks beforehand. Now it's not. It's basically as soon as New York Comic Con comes up for ticket sales, I'm throwing in my money right away. But primarily I do not do the comics. I did years ago, but not anymore. So pretty much it's about the media, looking around the exhibit hall floor. T-shirts is my latest thing.
This guy is amazing with the signatures. Kevin, I have to say, I mean, you managed to get Lewis into the Game of Thrones, so he got their signature like in 2014, and he still has that poster up on the wall. I don't know how you do it, how you're able to get some of those things that you get. So.
Yeah, and that's primarily what I do. So I would say the big thing I'm happy about San Diego is the fact that those autographs are primarily free. It's not going to cost me a lot of money to go out and get autographs from I would say the collection of folks that are there. And I'm not hounding them. I'm not sitting in the hotel lobbies or outside of the press rooms trying to get signatures. It's pretty much going to studio booths, finding out the rules, and going through there. But when I go to New York Comic Con, I am paying some coin for some autographs, and that pretty much is, I would say, that's the thing. And the same thing for, like, if you go to like a Heroes Villain or a Walker Stalker convention, they get a lot of the talent there, and it's really good because those folks are really nice, but that's also very expensive when you want to get a lot of autographs. But New York Comic Con, I'm going to be going to a lot more panels this year. I'll just say for New York Comic Con, it's a lot of Doctor Who. So once they started announcing everything related to Doctor Who, I said, okay, I'm sold. I'm right there. It goes with the name. It goes with my forum name. It can help it.
Absolutely. It's interesting what they've done with the Hammerstein ballroom. But the Doctor Who panels, they're going to be at the MGM.
Yeah, they're going to be at the Madison Square Garden, the theater at Madison Square Garden, which is smaller. It's underneath on the backside of the arena. There is no room clearing, so it's going to be very interesting because it's the first year trying to figure out logistics related to that. They have a few panels, so it's BBC America's taking over one day, but they're kind of affiliated with AMC, so it's going to be a lot of the Walking Dead, Class, which is the new Doctor Who spin-off series, which is going to be there. Of course, Doctor Who. I'm still waiting to see if they're going to do anything else. And while we're talking about New York Comic Con, let's just throw this one out.
Well, let's evolve the conversation into New York Comic Con because there is plenty of headlines to talk about that. So, go.
Yeah. There's this one show that's coming out called Falling Water, which looks very interesting. It's like a Matrix, Doctor Strange type of show kind of mashed together. Inception, actually. Matrix and Inception mashed together, I think is probably a better analogy. And that has a panel, I think, the Saturday morning in the main exhibit hall. The main building of New York Comic Con. So that's going to be on my list to watch. And then, of course, New York Comic Con brings some of the locally produced New York-based or New York shot shows. So you'll see the Gothams. You'll see Elementary there. You'll see a few other shows there. They haven't officially announced those yet, but I would not be surprised to see Elementary again. Mr. Robot usually shows up there, which is really cool. So that's the other thing that's on my list. And they're still making announcements. So for the next couple of weeks, they're making announcements. So pay attention to the Repop Twitter feed, on the blog, the Fochi blog. We're going to try to turn around press releases as quickly as we can when they announce panels, and then try to figure out how our schedule is going to look like, because every time I turn around, there's another panel, and they're going to, of course, schedule something against that, and you have to figure out where you're going to be for the day.
Absolutely.
I have quite enjoyed the Repop social media. I think they've been very good at keeping the fans very clued in with what's needed to be known about New York. I mean, have we got any dates yet on ticket sales for that yet? Sorry, not ticket sales. I mean, what's the next thing that's kind of like on the horizon for announcements for New York Comic Con, Alyssa?
We're rolling out constantly almost on a daily basis new shows. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Elementary, Once Upon a Time, The Exorcist is going to be there. That's a new Fox show that's happening. You've got a bunch of Nickelodeon shows that are coming. I forget those names off the top of my head. Ash versus the Evil Dead is coming. So there's a whole bunch of new shows, and you've got the Madison Square Garden BBC A block that Kevin was talking about earlier. Primarily what people are doing at this point is getting their tickets. I know I've got my press ticket. I think even the regular tickets are being mailed out now. So everybody, their 4-day passes are going out. If you haven't received it in the next week or so, I'd say probably give them a call. Or talk to them. But it certainly is getting to the point where I am putting all of my information into the phone. I'm working the schedule out because it's getting to that point of picking the vendors that I want to see and picking the panels that are coming. So that's pretty much where I am. Where are you, Kevin, at this point with your planning for New York?
I'm a little bit behind because I try to wait until I would say another week or so, maybe a week out, and I really start figuring out what my plan is, because I want to get all the information in before I really start plotting out what I do need to do. And speaking about badges, I purchased some badges for a good friend of mine, and literally they just arrived yesterday. So they're going out in waves. I saw folks that received their badges a week ago. I received mine yesterday, and my phone is blowing up from folks that I was buying badges for. And I'm telling them, I didn't receive it yet. I'm checking every day. As soon as the mail person comes, like, are there any tickets yet? So it's going on waves. I think another week or so for folks to wait to see if they get their badges, and then that's all linked into the scheduler. So when you get your badges, then you can link up to my schedule and then actually start making your plans around that. And if you go to the go ahead.
Do they use MySched as well, just like San Diego does, or do they use
Yes.
a different? All right,
Yes.
And
it's a very good app. It works very well. Now, keep in mind, it's going to be plugged in with a lot of advertising, but it's actually very well. And it's updated, I think, fairly quickly. If there's a cancellation, it's updated fairly quickly. Sometimes you might get a cancellation. You get an email first for the cancellation, but then the app's updated fairly quickly. And it works throughout the entire Javits Center.
Excellent stuff. Very handy to have. Excellent stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay. So was there anything else that you wanted to talk about in terms of New York Comic-Con, Alyssa?
It starts in a couple of weeks. Everybody should have their plans ready. If you don't, you're still looking for a place to stay or roommates or any of that sort of stuff at this point, better get on it. It's that time.
Hopefully we're going to be joined by a representative of Repop. Hopefully we're going to get Mike Armstrong on board to talk about that. Sarita P has mentioned a couple of shows that she's interested in when it comes to New York Comic-Con. Black Sails, Mr. Robot, and The Walking Dead. Is saying, however, that Thursday badges are still available.
Yep.
So,
Thursday badges is still available. And it's full day, too. Usually Thursday might be a light day for anyone who just wants to who's local to the area, who wants to just test out the waters. Thursday is probably a good day to walk around.
That's usually my day to get those elusive signatures because, I was able to walk up to Marv Wolfman's booth and get a signature first thing Thursday morning at Boston Con. And the line for him was always, huge. So those are the days to get signatures for Artist Alley, the days to get be able to walk up and get some of those exclusives that are not perhaps, are not the Pop Funko exclusives. Thursdays are a nice day to chill and catch a panel that you may not be interested, you may not have thought you would like, but are willing to give it a shot and get turned on to a new show that you really enjoy.
Speaking of Pop Funko, which you mentioned there, I think it was this week, and you're going to have to let me know because I did kind of glance over this. Funko announced their booth policy this year.
Exactly. They have opened it up to it's a lottery now, and they've opened that up. And I believe they'll be picking people, I think it's by the 25th of September. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have that information up. But anybody who is going to be attending New York Con can go in and select the days in which they will be attending and enter in the lottery to get either a wristband or a ticket to visit the Funko booth. I believe there's 3 slots per day. I think it was a 9:30, a 1:30, and a 3:30. I will say to anybody who's not familiar with the process that they use this similar process at San Diego Con. At San Diego Con, I had a 12:30 slot, and not everything was available. So just do not go in there expecting if you have if you do win a ticket from Funko, don't go in there at 12:30 or at 3:30 expecting that you're going to be able to get the rarest of the rare Funko exclusives. They may have 1 or 2 of them per time slot, if that. So
saying yes, they will be emailing winners at the end of this month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's interesting that they decided to go that. I know it did cause a bit of a stir on the social media when it came to the fact that they were going to go lottery with this. I think it was also interesting that they've taken this on and considering that they had the whole issue of San Diego Comic-Con, in that they did also allocate a series of tickets to the Funko Forum members. This is open to all applicants, isn't it?
Yes, but they've already given. I stand corrected. That was for another party that Funko is having, that they had given tickets to forum members. The other interesting New York Comic-Con news was how they're handling the main stage. Instead of wristbands, which traditionally how it has been at New York Comic-Con is that you queue up in the morning, you get your wristband, you're able to go to that panel because the room is cleared after each panel. This time, instead of a wristband, you tap in. That puts you into the room. The advantage of this is that once you tap into that queue and you are given a green light, you know that you are in that room. You don't have to wait until the wristbands are handed out to know that you're in the room, because it's RFID and they've got the limit. They know how many people are going to be in the room. Am I making myself clear here?
Yeah, I think
I'm kind of getting it.
Yeah, going back to that, it's pretty much almost the same process. The only difference is that you don't have a wristband. But when they were handing out wristbands in past years, I don't think they had a capacity issue because they had a certain number of wristbands they were giving out. The thing is, though, that you're going to have, instead of 4 wristbands on your wrist, now you only have to use your badge and swipe in and swipe out. So I think the logistics is pretty much just a transfer from, instead of using wristbands, you're just using your badge. And then the other thing is, when you're getting into the queue, it's pretty much almost like the same process that they're using to distribute the wristbands. A person's going to walk through, and then you have to tap it, their little PDA tablet, which I'd say allocates you into that room for that particular panel. I think logistically, it probably makes it easier, but also might be confusing the first day that they try it.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I can see some issues arriving, but I'm more confident that they'll be able to overcome them because they've had 2 or 3 years of using the RFID technology. I mean, I'm hopeful that issue won't be a problem. I'm scared about what happens if somebody loses their badge for that particular day, number one. But number two, the other thing is that I would love to see them start tapping people into that queue line earlier. So instead of waiting until 10 o'clock in the morning to start handing out the wristbands and or tapping into the queue, if you've got somebody there at 7 a.m. when they let people into the building and you start just funneling people through, you don't have to wait there, and you can co-join the queue to get onto the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would love to see, whether or not they'll be able to do that the first day. As you said, Leonard, I think, or Kevin, I think it will be interesting to see whether or not you can do that. But all in all, I kind of like the idea, aside from the, oh my God, what happens if I lose my badge?
Yeah, and I think they've handled RFID very well. So I think this transference is bad.
Sorry, I have one issue. And it's all down to the collector side of fandom. It's about the bragging rights. When you've got a wrist full of wristbands, it says that I've done this. This is the mileage I put in. Look at all of these things.
And the missing hair on your arm when you try to rip off the band, right?
Hey, it's part of life. It's the circle of life. If you're going to go with that one. Okay. Cool. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I think we've got 15 minutes where I think we're going to be talking about television. Any last things about New York Comic-Con we want to just very quickly cover?
No, not from my end, Alyssa.
Nope.
No, okay. We are going to hopefully try and get somebody from Repop, hoping that it's going to be Mike Armstrong, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks to talk about their plans for New York Comic Con and how it's all coming together for this year's event. Right, this is where I kind of take a sit back, because one of the questions when we were putting the show together, Kevin was asking what the British shows are coming up, and quite frankly, in this country, all we're talking about is the Great British Bake Off, and that's not what this show's all about. That's not what this hangout is about. Red Dwarf, that's probably about it. That's all we're doing. But there's plenty of shows coming out of the States, especially as the new fall television schedules start rolling out. So, Alyssa, Kevin, have at it. It's all yours.
Okay.
Go for it, Kevin, if you want.
Okay, I'll start off with a couple of things, and let's just say tonight is the Emmys. You got, from our perspective, we have Game of Thrones with 23 nods going in, American Horror Story, Mr. Robot. So my money's on Mr. Robot and GOT coming out with some stuff. Top Gun is Mislani for Best Actress. I'm going for that. Rami, for you with or you, Alyssa, with your hoodie. And keep in mind, Sherlock is also up for the Abominable Bride for Best Television Movie. So fingers crossed. In terms of TV, we have, I would say, this is really the ramp up. The ramp up for the new series coming back on board. Last week was Blind Spot. This week we got Blacklist, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then if you want to start, Alyssa, go right at it.
Let's see. This, in terms of new shows that are coming up this week, I'm just making sure that I'm in the right area. We've got The Good Place, The Exorcist, Lethal Weapon, Designated Survivor, Falling Water, MacGyver, and Van Helsing. Those are all shows that are new this week. The geeky ones tend to be the Falling Waters. Admittedly, the Exorcist, MacGyver, Lethal Weapon, and Van Helsing. Well, obviously Van Helsing is more of a geeky show, but MacGyver and Lethal Weapon and The Exorcist, those are shows that are also of interest. You, Kevin, had mentioned that you were interested in Falling Water. I don't know as much about that show as I perhaps should, but I do know that a lot of people are talking about Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland.
Yes, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it, and it's about it's a congressman, I think, or a senator that's pretty much does not go to the State of the Union address, and they keep them locked away somewhere, and then something happens, and then pretty much the entire government is taken out. And then basically that person's then ascended to the role of president. So he's kind of a reluctant person coming into the role of president of the United States. So Cal Penn from you name it is in this series, and he's also a consultant on this and he's bringing his expertise from the White House to the show as a consultant, but also he's an actor assisting Kiefer Sutherland in this series. But Blacklist is actually returning also, which is actually on the fringes of the geekiness, but it's also a very fun show to watch.
Yeah, I was going to kind of hold off on doing the returning shows. We can certainly do the returning shows for this week.
Okay, you want to do the Falling Water looks interesting, which is, like I call it, the mashup between Matrix and Inception. There's not too much details around it, or at least for me, I try not to look at too much details and kind of look at the first episode and see if it's something for me. But this actually does look like a very interesting show in sci-fi.
3 unrelated people who slowly realize they are dreaming separate lives of a single common dream is the sentence, the catch-all sentence that I'm getting from the USA channel. Which is having Falling Waters on Wednesday. And the other new series, which while it's not geeky, I'm really looking forward to, and we haven't mentioned so far, is called Pitch. It's on Fox, and I believe it airs on Thursday. It's about the first female pitcher in Major League Baseball. And it looks really good. I have to admit that it speaks to me. I'm not a big sports fan, but it certainly speaks to me. And I think it does to all the dads out there who love baseball and daughters. So that seems like another good one that's happening this week of the newer shows. In terms of the returning shows this week, what we're seeing is, let's see, we've got Z Nation just came out. It's going to be airing into its regular time slot, which I love the intro to Z Nation. I actually saw that yesterday. We've got Big Bang Theory, Gotham, Luther, Scream Queens, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and The Blacklist, Star Wars Rebel, and Hawaii Five-0 are all going to be out this week too, returning for their season openers. So all of those seem to, which one of those are your most interesting? I'm looking forward to. It's got to be Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Blacklist pretty much are my top two. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been trying to stay away from the details, but I know that if you've got some interesting things coming about. The dynamic of the show. I think a time slot shift, so it's going to be a little bit darker. The team is, I would say, coalescing underneath a new director. So this is actually going to be a very, very interesting season coming up. So fingers crossed.
What's your take on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the fact that they have split the title, that it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ghost Rider?
I think it's just like they're trying to come up with, it's like Gotham Villains, Rise of the Villains. They're trying to give it a context, a kind of a theme, and therefore it's going to be
like a for each season.
Yeah, either each season or a segment.
Sorry, like a semicolon, yeah.
Yeah, so Gotham, of course, this week I've been binging on Gotham. That's also another fantastic show that's on my list. I think in the season they split into two different titles. You had Rise of the Villains or Wrath of the Villains, or Wrath of the Villains and Rise of the Villains. So it was kind of, they threw it out there and they said, you know what, this works. This dynamic works. You're always rooting for a villain and stuff. And the title, I think, gives it some context. It kind of coalesces what they're trying to do for the story.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
we've got a couple of people on the Q&A that are mentioning a couple of shows that they're excited about, including one I've not heard about. So someone's going to have to point me out on this one. We've got Lethal Weapon, which people are talking about. Andrew English hoping that it's not a flop like Rush Hour. Graham Small is hoping. Well, he's saying that MacGyver is going to be cancelled in 2 weeks. I'm calling it. I'm praying that it's not, because I've seen. So I've seen stuff about that show, and I quite like the look of it, to be honest. Let's have a look. Lucifer starts up on Monday, says Angela Copley. So ready. My wife would totally agree with me on that one. Big fan of Lucifer. And Michael P. is saying that Atlanta is a fun adult show. I don't know anything about Atlanta. What's that about?
It's on FX, and I've been meaning to catch it. It looks really kind of quirky. I saw another show on FX, and I want to say Better. It was a half-an-hour sitcom that I never watched. It was like Better Things or something about a woman, female actress, a mom actress in LA with a mom of 4 daughters or something, and it just. FX seems to be doing really quirky, real-life situational problem things. So I'm interested in seeing Atlanta. Yeah, I totally agree with you about MacGyver and Lethal Weapon. I am scared that those shows are going to suck. Hate to say it, but they're getting
Lethal Weapon. It will be.
Yeah.
So, I'm. This is a challenge for me, and that's why I think for me, when I come through the season, I pretty much say, okay, these are the shows I watch. These are the shows I kind of stack in my DVR and wait for the executive, the TV executive, to pull the plug so quick before you know it. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, the show's done. What? Okay. Some of them happen within the first week. Lately, they've been committing to shows Fox is notorious where they did not like genre type of shows, and they used to just not really do well with it. Yeah, so Lucifer was a surprise for me. I thought it was going to get canned within a week or two, and it's built up its fan base. Unfortunately, I missed the boat on that, and I have to slap my hand for not watching it. The one thing I do have to say is Quantico was my big miss of last year. I did not expect it to be so good, and it's now on Netflix, so you can catch up and watch that show.
I heard really good things about that show.
Quickly,
Yes.
The following next week is we're going to just to kind of move this on a little bit here. We get Once Upon a Time is coming back. Last Man on Earth. This is all the following week. The regular show. Sci-Fi is doing 2 shows. One called Channel Zero and the other called Aftermath. Neither one of those do I have high hopes for. I hate to say it, but Channel Zero is more of a horror kind of related show, which I'm not a big suspense fan, but perhaps people will like it. It certainly has got some people interesting behind it. Kendal Cove is the showrunner and executive producer. You got somebody.
Is it a show that's kind of jumping on the American Horror Story strain, kind of?
Yeah,
it did seem like that. But also on that night, you also, I think for you, Alyssa, is Drunk History, right? Is that one of your favorites?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Drunk History, but Sci-Fi is also doing another show called Aftermath, which is a post-apocalyptic show with a big dose of supernatural thrown in. And I'm like, what?
I can't see that taking off. That sounds like such a radical idea for television at the moment.
So that it's just is too much of a mashup. I'm going to DVR it just to see how it goes, but I don't have another thing. And Luke Cage drops on the 30th. So as we had mentioned earlier.
We're talking about a bunch of shows, and I know we're throwing a lot of shows at a bunch of people, but there's one show that hasn't been mentioned yet. Graham Smalls mentioned it on the Q&A, and we've also mentioned a bunch of shows off the back of other IPs, your MacGyvers, your Lethal Weapons of the world. All of those I don't think I'm interested in, quite frankly, because you don't touch a quality film to start with. And yet, this is where I have to roll back, because I cannot wait for Westworld.
Oh,
I can't wait for Westworld.
Seriously.
That's the next week. October's
That
crazy.
looks so good.
Yeah.
Did you see the tweet by Brubaker, the comic book author, who said he had seen this, the premiere for it, and was just like, this is so good. You guys have got to watch this show. It makes me want to get HBO, which is
Getting a bit dark here in the UK. Sorry about that.
no worries. I'm looking forward to that. Timeless also looks good. I'm not sure when that comes in.
The second season?
Timeless is October 3rd.
October 3rd?
October 3rd. And the night after Westworld.
I watched the first 7, 8 episodes of that, and I'm stunned it's gotten to a second season. Wow.
No,
okay.
No, Timeless. Sorry,
Yeah.
Timeless.
Timeless is a new series. What did you see?
Oh, sorry, not Timeless then. Help. The series that was based off.
You think Limitless? Limitless.
I think I'm.
Oh, they got canceled. Yeah, that was canceled.
Hey, there is karma in the world. It's okay. I'm good. All right.
It's Timeless. It's just for people. It's a criminal who steals a time machine intent on destroying America is the quote that they give. I have to say that this show kind of do you guys remember the show called 7 Days in the early
Yes. Yes.
It was the premise was that somebody had a time machine, but it can only jump you back 7 days, and so that you can correct one little thing. one disaster. And I have to admit, this kind of has the same vibe to it.
Well, Timeless will be at New York Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So anyone who's interested, they were at San Diego. They will be at New York Comic-Con, and they were doing a screening, I think, and then they're bringing out some of the cast. So that's on my radar for October, definitely.
When does Time After Time come out?
That is not until, I think, November.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fan of the original. I'm showing my age.
We're trying to stick to like the shows that are happening eventually, you know, in the next week or two.
I know. I didn't know when it was due. I'm just, yeah.
Conviction is starring Haley Atwell. I like her. It's going to be interesting. I don't love like lawyer shows. I mean, but Haley Atwell.
But the premise for this one is going to be interesting because she's flawed in a sense when she's forced into a division where they take a look back at convictions to see if there's something that they can overturn. So each week is going to be very interesting, but a longer arch with her getting into terms with the issues that she has. So that, from when I first saw the trailer of the pilot, I was immediately hooked, regardless of Haley Atwell.
But it's always
not a fan of Haley Atwell. Do you see this? No, I'm a huge fan of Haley Atwell, and I wish her success, tons of success.
Cool.
Have I missed any shows in the next couple of weeks, Kevin, that you're really looking for?
I'm going to say that I'm going to stay away from the usual cast of characters. The Flash, Arrow, which drops early October. Early October. Well, what we can do is we'll just put something on the blog for those when it comes time. I think we'll start forming up our picks in the next week or so and get that out. But I think Ash vs. Evil has a huge cult following, so let's call that out here. And that's going to be October 2nd. The fan base is huge. Unfortunately, that's not my wheelhouse, but I might try to give it a shot if I have an opportunity.
The only other thing that's really on my radar at this point, aside because I haven't looked at the late October, November shows, is a movie called Arrival.
That is something that has been on my radar for a while as well, because I was a fan of the original short story. That looks fantastic.
With
very much up for that.
Yeah, and Amy Adams and Forrest Whitaker. I have to say I'm a little concerned that that it's kind of close encounters.
What is wrong with that?
I didn't see the reaction.
What is wrong with comparisons with the greatest film of all time?
They screened it in Toronto, but I didn't see what the reaction was. I didn't read the review. I tried to stay away from reading the reviews now because they dropped too many spoilers in them. But I didn't hear any negative press about it. So fingers crossed that looks good.
Cool. Okay, let's wrap things up with a couple of comments from the chat room. Thank you so much for interacting and getting involved on this. It's actually working a lot better than I thought it was going to. It's a little bit awkward because it is all linear, so I'm trying to keep an idea of what's happening on the chat room, but thank you so much. We've got Graham Small that is pointing out that there are 3 time travel shows starting this season. Teresa Maxwell asking, do you think they can ever do a Planet of the Apes series and make it work? I think that's a whole other conversation. Thumbs up, thumbs down, Alyssa? Planet of the Apes?
I would love to say yes, but they gotta put the money into it. They got to put the money into it.
I'm going to abstain from that because I'm not a fan of Planet of the Apes. I was having a conversation about that last night. We're having a range of conversations about different things, and Planet of the Apes never stuck with me. I'm sorry.
I like the new films, so I think that it works on a big screen. I think it just works in that epic scale. But that's just that. There you go. That's just me. I think you're right. If it doesn't have the money behind it, it doesn't look. It's just going to be blokes in suits. So,
but they tend to, when they have money, they tend to focus on special effects, and they forget that it's character driven. I mean, the thing that made it so wonderful was Charlton Heston and the name of that guy, Cornelius.
The orange.
Sorry, Roddy McDowell. Get it right.
Roddy McDowell, exactly. I mean, that was brilliant. And you remember the movie because of those character exchanges. And when you start getting into some of these big budget movies, and that's why I'm so looking forward to Arrival, because it seems like it is character driven about this female lead who's trying to figure out a new language.
Yeah. It does look, I know it looks fantastic. It's a film that's definitely going to be, I mean, there's that, Doctor Strange, the usual stuff, but that is sitting in my want list. I'm very much so. Frequency looks interesting. Teresa Maxwell is also saying, is Frequency based on the movie? If so, cool.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Andrew English is looking forward to the Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl four-way crossover. And Small is saying he doesn't watch it, but he's looking forward to Comic Book Men season 6, which starts soon. Sarita P is punting the Blunt Talk series starring Patrick Stewart, which I've been hearing is very, very good. Very funny.
It's funny. It's really funny. Raunchy and funny. Patrick Stewart doing things I've never would have imagined him doing.
Okay, what was the name of that one?
Blunt Talk.
Okay.
And I think his name is Henry Blunt. You can I think it's on demand. You can see it on demand potentially on the. I forgot which cable channel for you, Leonard. It's going to be different thing.
We're just going to have to find it from somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really, really funny. He's a newscaster, and he has a whole bunch of issues. Let's just say that.
I like flawed characters.
Do you like our news readers with a whole bunch of issues?
Yeah, it's not a family show. It's not a family show at all.
Okay,
which makes it better for him.
Someone else is pointing out that the other show that is attracting a bit of attention here in the UK when it comes to sci-fi and genre is the new spin-off from Doctor Who, which is Class, which, to be honest, is a show which is just not quite sticking the landing when it comes to attracting my attention. It's replacing the Sarah Jane Adventures, and it's based. It's a school which is in the Doctor Who universe.
Coal Hill School.
I don't know. I'm trying to work out what the hell that's about.
The Doctor Who fan comes out a little bit, yes, but it centers around the original school where the Doctor first appeared on Earth. And that's where Jenna Coleman's character was teaching before her departures. So for me, I'm kind of waiting to see what happens. But I'm gonna add it to my list. I watch a lot of the English TV series.
Is there going to be a screening of it at New York?
They have a panel. I'm not sure if they're going to screen it. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure, but they're going to have a panel. That's part of that block. The whole BBC America block at the theater at Madison Square Garden. That's going to be there. So
cool.
I'm not sure how much they're going to show or how much but they're going to bring the cast. They're going to do everything. I'm hoping that it'll be a good showing.
Cool. Well, in the next couple of weeks, we will do a New York Comic-Con episode where we do talk about the panels and the things that you'll be able to see, including the television series. So lots and lots of television shows starting up soon, which we've talked about there. Of course, you can keep the conversation going using the hashtag #CupOTSDCC. And of course, you can contact my guests on their Twitter. Where can people find you, Alyssa?
friendsofcc.com/forum at friendsofcci on Twitter.
Excellent. And there is also there's a new Friends of Comic-Con Twitter handle as well.
I was letting him do that.
Okay, is that yeah? It's getting a little bit confusing. I'm hoping that Alyssa's account is going to become Alyssa's again, and the Friends of the Comic-Con forum account can just be for the forum. So that'd be cool. Well, tell us about that, and where can people find you, Kevin?
Okay, I'm at Kevin DW42. And I'm also using the other account, the at FOCC blog. We're trying to use that now to also interact with everyone related to the blog posts and the articles. So that's starting to ramp up, and feel free to reach out to us on both of those. And the Friends of CC is actually very good too. So I call it a collaborative thing. These are it's a symbiotic relationship between the forum and the blog. So when we put out articles, we connect the conversations to the forum, and sometimes vice versa. So I look at it on both sides.
Okay. Well, I see it more as Alyssa is Picard, and the other account is the Borg, and together they form
assimilate. I thought you were going to call me Riker. I'm like, okay.
Assimilation. Assimilation. That's the word I was looking for. Excellent. Right. You can find me at Englishman SDCC on Twitter. You can search on all sorts of social medias, an Englishman in San Diego, and that's where you can find me. Graham Small. Surely Alyssa is Janeway. No. Alyssa's got a lovely speaking voice and not the voice of a demented penguin like Janeway had. Anyway, there we go. Right. So you can find me on all sorts of stuff like that. Right. She did. Anyway, just to let you know, we'll tell you more about next week's episode over the next couple of days. We are kind of finalizing a couple of guests for next week, but we are also going to be doing an episode on the 2nd. It's going to be a bit of a special episode. If the words Project Blue Book mean anything to you, if you've been following that on social media, something that I've been working on as a bit of a project, and it's going to come to fruition. We're going to do our grand kind of like coming out ball on the episode on the 2nd, so do tune in for that. So there we go. Thank you very much indeed. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. Back again next week for another episode from my guests and for myself, Leonard Sultana. Hopefully we'll see you next Sunday for another Talkin Comic-Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. From us, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care, guys.
Bye.